Hello, fellow marketers. My name is Madison Kenny, and welcome to my TED Talk. Today, I will be speaking about two topics in consumer behavior, and they are sensation and perception. Let's dive into these two concepts and learn more about how marketers are using sensation and perception to grab the attention of consumers and influence your purchase decisions overall. Recall the meanings of sensation and perception. What exactly do I mean when I mention these two words? Well, sensation is the response of the consumer when we are stimulated in some way. The information that we gather from observing the products and advertisements around us is then transmitted to our brain, where we store this in our memory, whether that be in short term or long term. Now, this is where perception comes into play. Think of perception as the exposure to these stimuli. Think of how products sitting on a shelf can grab your attention by stimulating your sight with bright colors on product packaging, brand logos, and the funky shape of the packaging itself. We make sense of what we are seeing and experiencing, and then we keep this information stored in the back of our minds to access at some point later on. Every individual in this room is a consumer. Whether we are buying our groceries for the week or spending money on concert tickets, the bottom line is we are constantly consuming. As consumers, we want to make sense of what we are taking in. How we perceive certain products in the marketplace is up to our individual self. We interpret information presented to us in different ways, and products are positioned in our minds based on our level of engagement with that product. We tend to remember those products and advertisements that effectively stimulate our five senses. In this talk, we will be focusing on just our senses of sight and smell.
Let's start out with a simple exercise to stimulate your sense of sight. Here on the screen is a logo with no text, just semiotics. Semiotics are symbols, and many logos are seen as symbols because they are representative of a specific brand. Do you know what this logo is? I bet you do. And that only took your brain 1 or 2 seconds to recognize stimuli. You said Pizza Hut. But how did you know this? Well, just observe the colors and the shapes in the logo. We as consumers immediately recognize the shape of the Pizza Hut in red, even without the text being there.
The Pizza Hut brand logo is an example of how marketers stimulate your sense of sight with color contrasts and unique shapes. Your eyes are naturally drawn to the bright colors, and once you are exposed to a product or product advertisement, you then start to make sense of what is in front of you. Exposure to stimuli grabs your attention first, and how you perceive such advertisements and products is second nature. Another concept is observing how our sense of smell directly impacts our behavior as consumers. Sensory research conducted by Dr. Rathi explains the power of scent in saying that the sense of smell emotionally affects humans up to 75% more than any other sense. From the perspective of a marketer, stimulating a consumer's sense of smell is one of the most effective ways to increase sales and influence purchase decisions. Another case study on KFC mentions the power of a human sense of smell in saying that smells trigger certain parts of the brain responsible for creating emotions and memories. The human nose can identify and remember as many as 10,000 scents, and as much as 75% of our emotions are generated by what we smell. These case studies support the notion that scent marketing is a tremendously powerful tactic in captivating consumers. I work part-time in a small bakery in my home state, New Jersey. I frequently observe behavior of customers as they walk through the door. They are immediately met with the aroma of freshly baked cookies, pastries, and cakes. They always elicit one of two responses. I'm gonna buy up the whole store. Or the classic, I'll take one of everything, please. This activation of a consumer's sense of smell is the driving factor behind purchase decisions.
Now picture yourself walking into my hometown bakery. What do you smell? A freshly baked chocolate chip cookie. You think to yourself, I wonder what that cookie would taste like. Then, what do you find yourself reaching for? Your wallet. You pull out your wallet and reach for a few dollars. You then hand those dollars to me, the cashier, and in exchange, I hand you a paper bag with one chocolate chip cookie inside. You walked into my store, you smelled the aroma of the cookies, You start to think about and interpret that smell, and you ultimately let your sense of smell take over your judgment. Also, aren't you imagining what this cookie tastes like just by looking at the picture on the screen? Well, that's just your sense of sight being stimulated. You see a cookie on the screen and you start to reflect on all those times you've indulged in one yourself. You remember the scent, the taste, and even the texture. This exposure to stimuli evokes some kind of emotional response from consumers, activating your senses. You can almost taste this image on your tongue.
Now we can understand why marketers so frequently utilize stimuli and are always finding ways to constantly evoke a response from consumers. Now you might go out and buy yourself a cookie after watching this talk just because of how your brain was stimulated by an image. The next time you watch an advertisement, pay attention to the sensory details and how you might be feeling throughout the ad. Think about which of your 5 senses are being stimulated, and think of how this might affect your purchase decisions. You can start to pay close attention to how you as a consumer are being swayed into buying a product or service that you may not initially need, but one that you want, all due to your stimulated senses and your emotions. I hope that you can walk away with more knowledge on sensory marketing and the concepts of sensation and perception in marketing. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk.